And pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first thing we do is approve the agenda. I just want to note, previous meeting we had 2 items that we tabled. The final plat for the 2 acres and the bank deal, and the reason they're not on this agenda is because the bank is looking at some of the changes our lawyer made, Mike.
Yep, we just got them back today, so they're in the works, so likely these will come back. One of them will come back to the next meeting. 2 people are not certain what's going to happen, but it's in the family.
Okay, so that's the reason why they did not appear on this meeting's agenda. So just wanted to make note of that since it was in the minutes that we did table 2 items for the August 20th meeting. Okay, with that in mind, does anyone have any questions or changes? I know we have to add something to the consent agenda for letter E. It's going to be the St. Wenceslaus raffle, which was at your spot when you showed up tonight, and that basically is giving them the okay to start selling raffle tickets, which it looks like they are going to draw the winner at their golf tournament, which is until June of 2019, but they want to get them out before Dzerzhinski, correct, Sean?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so that's the only addition I have, so if anyone has any other additions or any changes or comments on the agenda? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Maggie Bass. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. First thing on the agenda is, Mike, do you want to kind of give us an introduction as to do a quick trip and the liquor license, which requires a public hearing?
Sure will. That tonight on the agenda we have scheduled a public hearing here as soon as I get done with my comments to consider the application from Kwik Trip Inc., doing business as Kwik Trip, store number 926 at 104th Avenue Northwest. The applicant is proposing that their liquor operation business at the above address would begin on or after September 10 of 2018. The licensing period would run from that point in time and expire on March 31st. They've made an application for a 3-2 off-sale malt liquor license. The applicant has paid all the license fees, provided proof of financial responsibility. Property taxes, utility bills are current at the time of this memo. Police Chief Garis has conducted a background check on the applicant and is recommending that there are no disqualifiers preventing the applicant from being granted a license. So everything's in order, subject to any public or community comment once you open the public hearing.
Okay. So I guess I will open the floor up for the public hearing. If anyone would like to make any comments, we request them to please come to the podium, state their name and address, and state their concerns.
Should state that we have in the audience the new manager of the Kwik Trip store here in Prague, and her name is Sydney Okaneski. Close?
Close. Okaneski.
Pardon?
Okaneski.
Okaneski.
Okay.
Miss Ozzie.
Miss Ozzie, yes.
That's easier.
And she did get a nickname already, which seems like everyone in New Prague has one, so welcome to New Prague. So if there's no comments, okay, I guess I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Sean Ryan. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Before we go ahead and make a motion to approve the license, I was wondering if, Sydney, would you be more than welcome to come to and kind of give us an update, the status of what's happening over at Kwik Trip?
Sure. So, I'm Sydney. I'm going to be the store manager. We are still on track. We're opening on September 13th at 5 a.m. It is a Thursday morning next month. Everything's going well. We're pretty much fully staffed. Like 99% of our coworkers live right here in New Prague. We've just got a couple from Montgomery and Lonsdale. They all super great. Training's going really well. Company-wise, everything's going well. I don't know what else.
And you're building a house in Henderson?
Yeah, we actually just moved in this last week Monday. So a week
Okay.
ago from today. Just moved to Henderson. So,
Oh, good.
yeah.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Sydney? Okay, well, thank you for the update, and we're looking forward to the store opening.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the approval of the liquor license? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the 3-2 off-sale liquor license.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion by Sean Ryan, and was it you, Kay? Second by Kay Wilcox. If there's no other questions or comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Congratulations and good luck on the store opening.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, next, I assume you handled the negotiations?
I did, and staff has recommended to you as a continuation of a proposed new 3-year parking lot lease between the City of New Prague and the Miller Milling Company LLC out of Bloomington. It would cover the time period of September 1 of 2018 to August 31 of 2021 at a monthly rate of about $2,400 per month. It's a $200 a month increase in that, in place for the 3 years. The lease, the remaining elements of the lease are exactly the same. There is a provision in there, a 90-day termination clause, where either party can, with written notice, can cancel the lease. So it's a continuation of what we've had. We know we have to work with the company as we transition through the construction project in 2020. And so Chris and the engineers are working to make sure that we'll have access either on 3rd or 2nd Street, right, Chris? Being able to get into the mill with trucks, and whether we have to expand any of the parking, we'll just have to take a look at it as we go through construction that year. But otherwise, all the other elements and provisions in the lease have remained the same.
What is the taxes that we pay on that?
Right at $2,000 a year.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions regarding the renewal of the lease for 3 more years?
And if you saw at the ballpark with the opening of the state Class B and C tournament, I think it was a couple years ago that Miller Milling was a contributor, and they provided funds to purchase the cooler that is down at the baseball stadium there and the concession stand. So they were a nice partner in that project, and had Mark been here, we're trying to get him down for a photo shoot at some point with that. But baseball wouldn't be baseball without that cooler, and the one that we had. This is a fairly nice upgrade from the one we previously had, so the company was a nice partner in that deal.
Good. Any other questions or comments?
I just have one. Is dust control a problem there?
No, it hasn't been. The lease requires that if we find that there's conditions or issues not being met, that we bring that to their notice, and they typically would take care of that. Doesn't matter from your standpoint.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. If no other questions, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the new 3-year lease.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Kay Wilcox, second by Maggie Bass. There's no other questions or comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Next, we are fortunate to have our city engineer, Chris Cavett, here to kind of give us an update of what's happening with 2019 street
Yep.
project, and this is not the 2020 project, this is 19.
So thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Before you tonight is consideration for approving a resolution ordering the preparation of a feasibility study. This is really the first step in the public improvement process. And as it turns out, we haven't done this for 4 years, if we kind of exclude or don't count the 2020 Main Street project. But the last project we did was in 15. In fact, what I would like to do is do a little recap of capital improvements plan, just kind of talk about what led us here to, go to full screen.
Aaron gave Ken the night off thinking that we were going to...
Oh, Mitch can help.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, I'll lead into this, but, well, I'll actually want to start with this. So what I wanted to recap before I get into the 2019 project is give you a little background history on the capital improvements plan. If you recall, we've done a number of projects in the 2000s and early, up through 2015 was the last, we'll call it local neighborhood project. At the end of 2015, we did a revision or an update to the capital improvements plan because we were looking to see what projects should we do in 2016. And when we were reviewing the next project that was on the list of projects, it was the neighborhood over here that's east of Columbus and north of Main Street. And we had decided that actually it was premature to try to do an improvement project in those neighborhoods. So we actually did not do projects in 16, 17, or in 18. In fact, this neighborhood over here is actually not even scheduled for reconstruction until after the 2020 Main Street project. So this area that's east of Columbus, north of Main Street, and then basically west of County Road 37 are scheduled for, right now in the capital improvements plan that was updated again in 2015, they're scheduled for 2021, 2022, and 2023. When we updated that, capital improvements plan back in 2015, we had identified that in 2019, based on the age of a number of streets that were built back in the 1990s, that they would be well situated to do a pavement preservation project. Not a reconstruction project, but a pavement preservation project. When I say pavement preservation, we're looking at almost all of these being a mill and overlay. So they've got curb and gutter, they've got storm sewer, they're in good shape, and we want to preserve them so that they can last another 20 years. Those are the streets that are identified on the map here in red. These are all the local streets. Again, dating back to about the mid to late 1990s, that are over 20, some 25 years old. And if we look at doing what we call an edge mill and an overlay, we can perpetuate the life of these streets much further. None of these neighborhoods require any major utility work, maybe some storm sewer rehabilitation, and a few minor things. So these are the item ones listed in red, again, are the local streets that are proposed for improvement in 2019. Again, based on the conditions of the road and the age of the road. So they've been reviewed by Public Works as well as myself. And so the list was put together. What's also proposed to be included with the 2019 project is actually a pavement replacement of County Road 37 from down on Main Street on the east end all the way over to Trunk Highway 21 on the west end. Scott County has asked the city to actually lead the project, include it with the city's project, and basically the county will cover all the costs that they would have otherwise paid otherwise. this project will team well with the city's project, because they're actually very similar. The only difference is County Road 37 will be a complete replacement of the pavement, so all the pavement will come out, be ground up, pulverized, and removed, but basically it is just a paving project. Again, with some storm sewer rehabilitation, etc. So from an economy of scale, types of projects, we also had some concerns just making sure that, you know, the new Prague residents were informed, taken care of, etc. There was some advantages for the city taking on the project, including with the city's project. So as part of the 2019 project, we, again, it's proposed to include the county portion as well. Now this county portion, again, that's shown in blue, is scheduled to be what they call a turnback. We did talk about this last year. So after it's improved, jurisdictionally, it would be turned over to the city and become part of the city's state aid system, or part of all our collector systems in the community.
This past fall, the county did come in and the council took action to agree with the county to remove the CASA portion of the designation, because the county wanted to move that to another road within Scott County. So it is not considered, for those that are remembering Kay and thinking of you, the county state aid highway designation no longer exists on this road. It is simply County Road 37. And then likely when we get done, we'll have to take a look at whether it gets renamed or not, because it will be removed from county, and then they will provide documents after they pay to take care of it. Then they will turn that back to us for our long-term ownership and management of that. But we would not do that until it's restored or put back in a good condition, as Chris has just described.
Does this also include some changes for the ADA requirements that we talked about?
That will be, yes. Anything that we are required to do would be included. Those improvements would be included, not only on County Road 37, but as well as if we have ADA items that need to be addressed within the local system, we would be doing that as well.
Predominantly, they have changed requirements.
Yeah, well, the standards and the design standards, mostly for pedestrian aprons, have changed a lot, especially since about 2012. And again, none of the pedestrian aprons on County Road 37 meet today's standards. And again, those would be all upgraded and addressed with this project as well.
It will also require to look at the trails or sidewalks within that roadway jurisdiction, will it not?
Anything, I guess, within that right of way, yes, leading up to or from County Road 37, or as well as again our local streets. So, and then backing up, just to highlight a few items. Again, there is the long list here of streets. They're the ones that are getting shown in red, and I will have to apologize that I had a number of typos and misspellings on some of the street names. It is corrected in the resolution that will be approved or considered tonight. So all the spellings are correct at that point.
Not in your resolution, but I have from here to sign.
Yeah.
So Chris, all these red streets, these have never have any work done before, so there's been no assessed for street improvements on any of these streets,
Yeah,
correct?
these would all be, I think everything would be developer constructed,
Seal coated.
seal coated over the years, maybe
Right.
some patching and things like
But
that.
that stuff doesn't get assessed.
Correct. So this would be a project, and we, as part of the feasibility study, we will identify an assessment. It will be less than the reconstruction amounts that were assessed in the past. We did do some very similar stuff up in 2015. You may recall that wasn't a reconstruction project in 2015. We did have a pavement replacement section. We also had some mill and overlay section, and those were assessed accordingly at much less than the reconstruction rate. During the study, as part of what we've also proposed as part of the feasibility study, is to evaluate, do what we call a modified intersection control evaluation study for County Road 37 and Columbus Avenue, as well as County Road 15 and 12th Avenue. So up by the school, so by the middle school, up by the high school. The reason is Columbus Avenue, again, is also a county leg. It's also slated to be a turn back sometime in the near future. And if we're going to do improvements on the roadway this summer, we have an opportunity, if it's appropriate, to look at some type of alternative to the four-way stop. I guess most of us in the back of our mind are thinking, after all the discussion about mini roundabouts, that it may be a good application for that. We do know that up in Shakopee, up near their, one of the, I think, middle school and high school, they did that. They've used a mini roundabout application there. Also, because County Road 37 is tentatively planned to be the detour route for the westbound Main Street during the 2020 project, we figure it would be beneficial to have some type of better intersection control at that intersection if we had that opportunity. So the intent of this study is to, again, to evaluate those intersections. They'll do traffic counts after school starts and evaluate whether or not some other intersection control would be more appropriate for those intersections. And again, we'll have more information as we get into the study and evaluate what the outcomes might be. So that, again, that is proposed as part of the study.
Chris, could you talk to us briefly why we have to also look at 12th and Columbus up by the high school as far as the interconnection from a traffic management?
Well, I think, again, there's an opportunity, if we're going to evaluate them, we need best to evaluate them at the same time. And again, with Columbus Avenue from Main Street up to 12th, and 12th to the east is proposed to be a turnback in the near future. If we're going to do improvements, now would be the time to do it. Again, if we do decide on, for example, on a mini roundabout, it would fit within the existing footprint of those intersections. So I guess that is pretty much everything in a nutshell. Oh, yes. Well, let me have one more thing just for everybody's information. In our engineering proposal, I'd like to turn to the schedule. This is more kind of just a reminder and a heads up, especially for those that may be new to the council. We outline feasibility study phase 1. That's where we're at. The beginning of the process where we're at right now. And then we'll prepare that feasibility study and be back later this fall with the report and public hearing. This is all part of this Minnesota Statute 429 public improvement process. And I have asterisks on that schedule, again, at those points where there's council actions that are basically to take place. Oh, yeah. So just a reminder that, again, this is all part of the public improvement process and that there's council actions that take place at numerous times along that process. Again, we would back with the feasibility study later this fall and the outcomes of that, and then followed up by a public hearing. And again, before we move into the next phase, which is preparing final construction plans. Mike wanted me to also remind you, it is showing up here. In preparation of the 2020 Main Street project, we are proposing to replace the sanitary sewer on 3rd Avenue northwest. So over by Flipside and the railroad tracks. There's a sanitary sewer that goes from Main Street up towards 2nd Street. It is to our advantage to have that replaced a year in advance of the Main Street project. We're suggesting that it be included with this project. We're not proposing any costs related to our engineering as part of the study because it's already been approved as part of our Main Street design, but we've identified the need and importance to do it, construct it a year in advance. So our plan and intent is to, again, go into the study with the thought mind that we're planning to include this reconstruction of the sanitary sewer with this entire paving project. So that was the note that was in the feasibility study. And again, that there's no cost other than the fact that we're just keeping it in our mind that it's going to be, the intent is to include it with the 2019 improvement project. I guess with that, any questions? What I've covered, otherwise you have a resolution before you for consideration, and then also our engineering agreement to do the phase 1 feasibility study and intersection control evaluation study.
So, Mike or Chris, with these costs, and obviously Scott County paying, is it going to be similar to the MnDOT project? We will pay these costs and then get reimbursed for anything that would be really county related?
On the county project, we likely request monies up front on that. If you want to touch on that.
Yeah, well, in my experience in dealing with the counties is sometimes they'll do an upfront or it'll be as pay as you go. So we would do actually a cost split. So as any improvements take place on 37, when we do a payoff for a contractor, we would submit a record of that to the county and then on a monthly basis being reimbursed. That's how I've dealt with it with a lot of counties, unless we're lucky enough where they'll pay a portion just up front.
Because there'll be is any of these engineering costs, would be some that would be reimbursable?
Everything related to the county road would be reimbursable based on, now there are some city obligation costs that go along with this, whether they did it or we do it. And they would be apportioned accordingly. So,
okay.
Yeah, all their obligation for engineering construction is paid for. They also have, if you'll notice in the engineering agreement, they've acknowledged they have a small portion of the cost of this study because there's some additional work that we need to do to evaluate. But they've signed us kind of a upfront agreement, just basically their agreement to participate and reimburse the city for any costs related to their portion of the study.
Okay.
And then we would enter into a cooperative agreement before we go into the next phase, final design and construction.
But the pieces that will be separate, if we redo the sanitary sewer line and all the street work and then any related portions of County Road 37, that ours would likely be financed as a project in 2019, as we've typically done in the past.
Okay.
I have two questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
What area does that 3rd Avenue sewer line carry? Or what do you?
Pretty much the whole south side of town, Main Street.
A big portion of town,
Of south side?
yeah.
Yeah, even a little bit of a portion over here on the east end, north of Main Street. So yeah, definitely a large area. It's a main trunk line.
And currently down 3rd Avenue is 2 old sewer lines that are both working together. When we redid 2nd Street Northwest, wherever the construction limits were for 2nd Street Northwest in 2012, we brought a 24-inch line down to, I'm going to say it's like 200 feet to the south. So that's what we'd be tying into, is that 24-inch from Main Street up to that point.
And then my other question, your initial slide showed 2 blocks of Lexington, and I think that's, what year? 2021? Was that a complete reconstruction?
Lexington, yeah. Off of Main Street, 2 blocks.
Would that be a good time to start addressing the sidewalk on Lexington?
Obviously, when we do a project, we will definitely be addressing sidewalks as they pertain to the city sidewalk policy and planning.
I think the goal should be to get to 15.
To get to where? I'm sorry.
Highway 15.
Oh,
County Road 15.
Yes.
So
Well, yeah.
I won't be here, so I just wanted to, but I'll remember.
Okay, we'll certainly discuss it. Our guidance is working with planning and whatever the sidewalk plan
Okay.
entails, so.
Mayor, as Councilmember Wilcox brings that issue up, is there's also a portion in the history of where you were involved in that sidewalk issue a number of years ago as you tried to install that sidewalk project, and it was approved and then I think unapproved, if I'm
It
recalling.
was voted down by 1.
Correct. That, so there was a challenge in asking to do that, and not that things haven't changed and developed differently, but to go back and retroactively do that in some of those
It
neighborhoods.
is, it's tough.
Will be a very strong challenge,
Yep.
and so I don't want to mislead the council per that request. That can be looked at per the policy and brought back and what it would look like. The retrofit in those areas are.
Right, but people have to remember it's an overall city
Yeah.
mobility issue. It's not just, you gotta go beyond the neighborhood.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a quick one, and I can't remember how this has played out before in some of the other projects, but the Naylor Avenue section right there, that's right on the boundary, both sides of the street are considered city limits. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I would, so it just wasn't.
Only the right of way.
Only the
Only
right
the
of way.
right of way.
None of those properties are in city limits.
I'm sorry, say that, both of you guys are talking, I just hear. Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, what Glenn mentioned is, is only the right-of-ways within city limits. Back when that was taken under jurisdiction, because of the rules of state aid, it was to the city's advantage to take that road on. Since then, ironically, some of the rules have changed in our favor in other areas, but it really isn't to our advantage now to have that road. Unfortunately, it is the city's road.
Right.
We're probably looking at more of an overlay to buy some time, because inevitably that's an area that's probably going to develop. It's probably a road that'll get upgraded to something different, but it's in such rough shape, something needs to be done for maintenance reasons.
Okay, and then how about the assessments? Does both sides of the street get assessed, or is it?
Unfortunately, we cannot assess. We can do what they call a postponed assessment, but for the type of improvement that's likely going to be up there, it probably doesn't make any sense to do that, and just wait until it does develop something different.
Okay. But both sides of the road would technically have to pay for that road. I mean, residents on both sides.
We have no, since they're township residents, we have no authority to assess them.
Okay, until that point. That was my
We
question.
can only do what they call by statute, it's what they call a postponed assessment. For that type of improvement, it probably makes no sense.
Okay, so then who, is that just absorbed within the entire budget? So everybody else that's getting work on that time, the other streets?
By everyone. Maybe you go in the
Well, our
general.
funding on these type of
Or,
projects.
well, that's what I'm asking. Does it go to the general or just to the streets that are going?
It'd be the general,
Okay,
because we're funding these projects by combination of assessments, some utility, and then
You're not
general.
using state aid on this, are you?
No, we would not be proposing any state aid on any of this.
Okay.
so.
But the right of way at one time, as you just described earlier, to our advantage when the law was what it was previously, adding that unimproved element was an advantage to us as far as pulling state aid funds. But until such time as we can annex those properties in, is I think you're going to propose doing something minimally of a sufficient magnitude to minimally address it until it can come back as a future reconstruct once the properties are annexed in.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that it was the entire town that was going to be paying that as opposed to just the few in that actual CIP. So-
And if it's any consolation, in theory, you are collecting revenue because that street is designated a state aid street. It's probably not a lot, but there is some revenue that's being obtained by the city because of that.
Thank you.
And then the other one that's not on there, as we mentioned a couple weeks ago, is in 2019, is that they will also be doing, the MnDOT will be doing a mill and overlay on Highway 21 from a 1/10 of a mile south of the intersection of County Road 37 north all the way to Jordan. So next summer will be a rather busy summer as you look at the proposed asphalt improvements. It's our hope, by tying in our 19 city streets to the county project, since that one will be such of a larger magnitude, we're hoping that that will benefit us on the pricing of what our asphalt overlay cost will be, hopefully because of being able to do this in a much larger project.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the resolution ordering preparation of the report.
So moved. For a second.
Second by Sean Ryan. And if there's no other comments or questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Second, I need a motion to approve professional services for SEH.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion by Sean Ryan, seconded by Kay Wilcox. There's no other comments or questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 4-0. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Getting kind of lonely without any of these street projects. It's good that you're back. Consent agenda. Remember we added letter E, which was the raffle to the St. Wentz on this. Besides that, does anyone have any questions, issues, anything in the consent agenda items? Okay, if not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Second by Maggie Bass. There's no other comments or questions. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, pass 4-0. Now we're at the fun spot, miscellaneous. Patrick, you got anything?
No.
Okay. Mitch?
Good.
Anything there? Rick, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm over here. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Seiler. I'm kind of new to the area. However, I'm running for office for city council. I am a former city councilman from where I come from. I got about 5 years municipal government experience and about 30 years of political experience. So I am here and I want something to do, and so I'm running for city council. I would like to explain, I got hurt. I was rescuing a girl in a rollover accident in 2014. Another car came along and hit me and kind of wrecked everything from here on down. So I spent about the last 4 years of my time recovering in facilities and different hospitals and such. I still got a mouth and a brain and all my knowledge, so here I am, and I hope to get as many people in the city to vote for me as possible, so I can get on up there and feel good about it. And but I'm looking forward to getting to work. So I'm here a couple months early. So you're going to have me here for like 4.5 years now, so get used to it.
Okay.
But no, my name is Rick, and it's spelled R-I-K. It'll be R-I-K on the ballot. And so I'm really glad to meet you. I thank everybody in New Prague. You've made me feel so at home. There's not a time I've been out where people haven't come by and waved and said hi. The people that know my story shake my hand, and it was a breath of fresh air. It's done so much for me just these last 8 months. You would not believe the improvement since I've been here. So I thank New Prague. Thank you all. And any questions, feel free to stop and ask me. I'm a very approachable person, and that, like I say, all I do now is talk. So, but I have a lot of construction experience, and I'm looking forward to Main Street renewal. And as I can, I've been looking at the map there, so there's always plenty of construction, and I love planning commission, so I'll be over there bothering Kay tomorrow or Wednesday, and but this is the beginning of seeing me, so I'll be here all the time. So feel free to ask me questions or talk to me, and once again, thank you all.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments. James, you have anything?
Just comment on the state tournament. Brought in some good crowds. No problems at all. Traffic was good. Everybody well behaved. Very good weekend for state tournament.
Yes, I agree. I spent many hours there. It was good to see some good amateur baseball, and it was nice to see people coming into town. They had one good, I think yesterday, Buffton came in with 2 buses, and they headed right over to the golf course to start their pregame ceremonies. So that was good to see too. So it was very good for the community. So, good. Glenn?
He stole my thunder, so I got nothing.
Well, make something up.
We got a stakeholder meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the Emergency Services Building. We're going to be going through a number of the layouts as far as future planning for Main Street. So that's the next big thing.
Are you going to bring up the width of the highway based on that memo?
We will.
Or the letter that?
In fact, we were talking about a response back to the resident, and
Okay.
when we get that finalized, it's just in draft form now, then I believe you'll see it, and then we will be sending it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Next time I'll ask you first, Glenn. So
Would you
that-
please? Once in a while, I got something really cool to say.
Ma'am, would you like to address the council?
I really don't know what to say, but my name is Coco. I just moved into this area.
Okay.
In Sanka. And just came in this community. I have kids. I don't have political background, never been a politician. I'm in healthcare. But I thought it was nice to come and sit and observe to see what is going on.
Okay.
And I will be coming here, try to come here at least maybe the first of the, I think you guys meet here is like the 3rd or the first Monday, right?
First and third Mondays at 6 o'clock here in Chamber Council.
Okay, so that's what I'm here.
Okay, well, good. Welcome.
If there's anything we can do from the staff standpoint, let us know. We'd be happy to facilitate your moving into the community and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Okay. Michael?
Glenn, I can't say that Glenn stole my thunder because Jim stole his thunder, but Glenn was too kind that I happened to attend the baseball game on Friday where the Orioles played, as well as working the parking activities both Saturday and Sunday. And Glenn is too kind to acknowledge anything, but if it wasn't for his efforts over the last 4 years, I'm not certain we could have put on the show that we put on this weekend. And everybody from the baseball players to the fans and the supporters, both within the community and that came with the baseball teams, spoke very highly of what they experienced here, as well as the overall tournament feeling that was provided. But Glenn, in conjunction with working with Jim Caligari, our park supervisor, Jeff Pint, our golf course superintendent, along with other public works staff and or utility staff, the work that we've done for the last 3.5 to 4 years really got to shine and was unveiled on Friday night. And I think we preliminarily calculated that between paid attendance, kids that were in free based on age, supporters, volunteers, state board members, and others, is that we probably had in excess of 800 people at that baseball game on Friday night. I have to believe that that's the largest crowd that's ever been accommodated there, because there never was a check deck, there never was the temporary seating of the magnitude that we brought in. but Glenn and the staff, and working with the baseball committee that we've worked with starting in the fall of 2014, and the council's involvement in officially approving the overall financing and the planning concept back in March of 2015, and then reconstruction projects in 15, the lighting project by the utilities in 16, and then the last work here with the dugouts and all of the other infrastructure that was done here in 17, finished up in 18, along with the intensive work that was done on the baseball field itself. I think provided a very quality showcase product for the community, and it was well received. And there were 8 baseball games played this past weekend. It will step up to 10 this coming weekend, and then Labor Day weekend it will go up to 11 games for a total of 29 games over 3 weekends. The other part of that is all of the volunteers that have come out to support, whether it be the ticket takers, whether it be the food people, whether it be the beer vendor people, whether it's the parking people, the guys that do the field maintenance in between, in the middle of the game and at the end of the games, and all the others. It's taken quite a showcase of volunteers from this community to be able to put on an event of this nature, especially for the first time. We don't have a track record as to what we can follow since it is the first time. I don't believe there were any parts of the entire facility, Glenn, that weren't touched in the reconstruction project over the years. And as Glenn and I talked today, that I think he genuinely shared with me that this was probably one of the more tougher projects that he's had in his entire career here, just because of the details and the work and the refinement and the reconstruction and the rework in certain cases. Even got to the point that I think a couple years ago, he started with the process of, instead of us just watering the baseball field every other day on a timer, they got to the point that they took measurements of moisture in the baseball field, so that we got to the point that I think our park supervisor now can look at the field, maybe not quite as good as the golf superintendent, but he can look at it just by looking at the grass, tell what the moisture content is and what's needed and what's not. But the significant turf restoration that field went through really shined very well this weekend. And so Glenn and his crew and all the others of the city and the community are proud of this facility. That it was quite an investment between the city, the school district, the utilities commission, and the baseball community, with donations from a lot of businesses and individuals. Were able to upgrade this facility so that we really could shine. And this weekend was the first of the 3, and hopefully it gets better. That we've got a number of local teams that are still in the tournament after the first round, and so we should see some good numbers the next couple of weekends as well. But the state board talked with them all 3 days of the tournament, and they were very pleased with the show that we put on and meeting all of the needs for their expectations with the players and teams that came in. And so we're really excited that it turned out as well as it has so far, with a little bit more work left to go. So that's it on the baseball front. You also have a letter on your credenza from Mr. Triplett regarding an issue with the utilities department. Not superintendent, but general manager Bruce Reimers has met with the individual, resolved the issue. The delivery fee was waived, and so the matter has all been taken care of. We just wanted to make sure that those letters had come in. I thought I was going to have a response from Bruce, but he basically took care of it, so I just orally wanted to present that and let you know. But other than that, if you've got nothing to do these next 2 weekends, they're still looking probably for some volunteers to help out. We have the opportunity that they've tried to provide individuals to throw out the first pitch at the various baseball games, particularly at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. Mayor Nicolai had the opportunity on Saturday night to throw out the first pitch because it was his birthday. So we were able to accommodate that, and I think it got all the way to home plate. That the catcher had to reach out a little bit, but it did not bounce. So
I threw junk. I was throwing junk. I wasn't throwing a fastball.
Based on the YouTube video I just saw of a sister that threw a curveball in on one that...
I think that was at the Little League King Rose Series. She was a little closer.
But anyway, we've been given the opportunity, and I know it doesn't necessarily occur at the best of times, but on Labor Day weekend, on Saturday of September 1st at 11 a.m., if any of you are still around for the Labor Day weekend, they have offered us the opportunity to throw out the first pitch. Because a couple of people are gone and chose not to want to do it, i.e. Glenn, Jim Caligiuri. It's come down to our other park maintenance person, Mitch Mayer, who is a strong baseball advocate and has spent a lot of time there, that we've indicated he probably has the best arm of all the rest of us remaining, and he's very excited about the opportunity. But because of the involvement of the council and the city, they've asked us if anybody is available to accompany and be part of it. Friday night, the Utilities Commission and various staff members that helped on the whole lighting replacement project with the park, they were brought out, and I think Dan Bishop on behalf of the commission threw out the first pitch. But I will send out an email with the particulars so that I can let you know how you can get in and what you need to do and what time you need to show up. You don't have to necessarily stay and watch the whole game or anything, but if you're there for that 11 a.m. throw out the first pitch with Mitch, we'd love to be able to have you. So I'll send you an email and see who's available. David might be back from vacation, I'm not sure, but he sat in on a lot of the baseball meetings as the council's rep in that process. But if any of you aren't busy and have the time, we look forward to having you come down and support Mitch on behalf of the city to throw out the first pitch on that Saturday morning. Otherwise, that's all I have for you.
Okay, Barb?
No.
Sean?
Yeah, I just have a quick question on the baseball thing as well. For Jim, I was asked by a couple residents, there was a full-time officer there the entire weekend, is that correct?
Yeah, I had somebody there just as a liaison for that area.
Was that part of like a normal rotation, or are they there on time and a half? And if they are, is that the city's responsibility, or is the baseball association going to get billed for that?
The baseball association will not get billed, it'd be the city.
Okay.
Yeah, it was part of.
Is that an extra officer? And then just from a fiscal standpoint, they want to know, was it really needed to have someone there full-time for 3 days? I know I checked with Shakopee, and they didn't. They just had kind of a patrol through and a walk through every 6 or 7 hours or something, they said. But I don't know if is that a time and a half issue? Is that something that we need to look at the expense of that and if it's really needed, or?
We can look at it, whether or not you want to, but it was additional officer for that liaison period.
Okay, what was the period? Was it, I heard, I wasn't there, but I had heard that it was all day, and they were just thinking, is that time and a half,
I had
double time, or?
A 7-hour shift on Friday and 2 10-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
So she wasn't there the entire time while they were playing, but she could cover most of the games.
Okay, was it, and there was just one, or was there periods where there was 2?
Well, if there were 2 there, that would have been somebody on patrol that would have stopped there.
Okay.
But yeah, at one point I know there were the officer working there, and then 2 road guys stopped by when there were some talking back and forth.
Okay.
That was heard over the radio.
Oh, I see.
Just some arguing stuff.
Okay. So did you feel that was necessary? I mean, is this?
Well, initially I scheduled our part-time officer to be up there.
Yep.
He's a baseball fan, and that I was going to cover with him. He got injured, so I wasn't able to utilize him for that.
Okay.
So then those shifts that I had him scheduled for, I opened up for somebody to work.
Jim and I talked about this today, and we took a look at it, and I did not discuss any of this with Shakopee or anybody else. This is the first time for our tournament, and in taking a look at it, that it is a learning experience for us, and so as we do it, we're trying to accomplish a number of things in that process that, when you get 700-800 fans in on, I think we have Friday night, Saturday night as well, then interacting with the kids and the other public as part of it, is that we're trying to take a look at this and ascertain and determine to what degree and what level of law enforcement, community policing do we want to do as part of this. So It's not intended in the sense that we're expecting major riots or anything of that nature, but it's nice just to have a presence with the consumption of alcohol in that large big gathering, and trying to judge going forward just what level of law enforcement assistance we either need or don't need for this kind of event.
Okay, well, it was just really a fiscal question that was from taxpayers to me. They didn't really see a need for it. There's not a full-time officer at the St. Wentz Parish Festival that day, and there's not, there hasn't been where there has been problems, as we've heard, at the Dojinki ball fields for the tournament, and we actually had the people come in this year, the people who run it, and asked for a police presence because of some of the issues there. And this seemed like it was really well run, maintained with strict alcohol guidelines, IDs, wristbands, fenced in areas, and they just were questioning why there was an officer probably getting time and a half or double time for 3 days of, and then actually I had heard that there was other officers there too, and they were just wondering why it seemed like there was such a heavy police presence.
Well, the others were just stopping in.
Which I got, so I can answer that question.
But the other part of it is, as I said, this is the first time we've done this, and we wanted to examine and determine, how or where we need to go, but until you experience it, you can't make that judgment call. And so, if you want to lay blame somewhere.
Oh, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm getting an answer for the taxpayers that have asked me. They didn't see a need for it, and they watch just as much as everybody else about fiscal responsibility.
We did have some underage drinking that was picked up by the officer.
Right.
In conjunction with it, and so it, and we had some unruly couple of characters on Friday night that the officer dealt with, and so Jim and I had a conversation. We're trying to judge just what level, if any, or to what degree we need that. And so right now it's kind of trial and error this first weekend, and we'll make some judgment calls as to where we go with that the next 2 weekends.
Okay, I'll let them know. Thank you.
Okay, that it? For you, Sean?
Yes, that was it.
Okay, Kay?
Nothing.
Maggie?
No, nothing.
Okay, the only thing I have, I guess we're gonna beat the baseball committee thing, but just a couple things to reiterate. Mike said, I did have an opportunity to speak to the state committee, and they were very pleased with the condition of the field and how the whole operation ran, so congratulations on that. And the other thing is, I think talking to Brad Schmidt, he was on the treasury group, but in the ticket sales, and I think we had over 2,000 for the 3 games. 2,000 fans paid attendance for those 2 games. So we're expecting bigger crowds for the next 2 weekends, just because of the moving to the next level. You seem to get more fan, and then Mike reiterated that the 4 DRS teams that qualified for state all won their first rounds. 3 of the 4 will be playing in New Prague. I think St. Patrick's is the only one that has to play in Shakopee. So we should have some good DRS fans joining us. So it was a good experience overall, and I'm looking forward to next 2 weekends. Should be good and positive experiences too. So, Mike, the only other thing I have is, did you ever touch base with that Mr. Renicky?
Yes, we did. That we're in the process of trying to determine where our exact property line is there, and we may have to move to undertake a bit of a survey question, not only for public works but also public utilities, to determine where our utilities are exactly located and whether the fence is on private property or what have you. So we're in the process of getting some proposals to undertake that survey from a general standpoint, and try to get that work started to help us resolve some of those issues.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't have anything else, so I guess I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Who was that?
So moved.
Oh, then I'll second.
Okay, good.
Okay. I got a motion by Kay Wilcox, seconded by Chuck Nicolai. If there's no other comments, All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, we're out of here. Thank you, everyone.